Welcome back. Now, the government says construction of houses under the affordable housing scheme is underway, and phase 1 will be completed in October 2019. The Uhuru Kenyatta administration plans to build 500,000 housing units in 5 years, now 3.5 years, for qualified income earners. And at Park Road, Nairobi, works are underway for the construction of the first phase. The houses are priced at R1 million for one-bedroom house, 2 million shillings for two-bedroomed, and 3 million for three-bedroom units. A showdown looms between the government and employers and workers' unions as the state digs in with the directive to deduct 1.5% housing levy from salaried workers by May 9th. This to fund the Jubilee administration's affordable housing plan, but that plan has run into headwinds. Fears of misappropriation of the funds and forced contribution have given way to legal battles and outright resistance. If sentiments from a section of Kenyans online is anything to go by, only they don't have a choice. And we'll talk about these choices or lack of them shortly. Principal Secretary Charles Hinga, thank you so much for making time for us tonight. He's the Principal Secretary, Housing. You've seen what has been going on over the last 1 week after you made this directive. First, why did you ignore a court order?
There was no court order at that time because there were there are many court cases, by the way. The two, court one and the FKE one, separate court cases had injunctions before.
Was there a court order or not? Because FKE is talking about an existing court order.
No, there was no court order. So when there's a court order and the parties consent and they file, that matter ceases to exist.
Okay. They insist there's still a court order in place. Be that as it may, Kofek also went to court, and there was an injunction there was a court order issued, and I'll read that a temporary stay of execution of the housing levy be and hereby granted until 20th May 2019.
But that was subsequent. This was...
So what happens now?
We obey the court order. So there's an order.
So this thing will not go on, that's what you're saying?
It will not go on until that matter is settled.
All right.
Yeah.
One of the reasons you're seeing criticism, and I'm sure you've seen it. First, we've seen legal redress, people seeking legal redress. And then we have seen a lot of criticism, and you've seen hashtags on social media and all that about the housing levy. And I'll read some tweets, and the issue is about choice for many Kenyans. I'll read some tweets very quickly. There's one, Chris Masita, who says, I'm saving for my house. Why should you save for me? I'm contributing to a pension plan where I will be able to assign 60% to finance a house. This housing levy is not a social welfare program, but a social theft program, okay? There's another person here, at Amina Belisimo. What if I am fine renting for life, renting a house, okay? And you can see them. And then, what if I already own a house? What if the location of these houses do not work for me? What if I'm already servicing a mortgage? Ours is a narrow-minded, cynical, selfish, punitive, greedy, deceitful, and unqualified government. Resist housing fund levy. And that is the thing. People just don't like that the compulsory nature of this levy. So how do you respond to them? Yeah.
In 2008, as a country, we came up with our long-term national strategy, which is Vision 2030. And in Vision 2030, we as a country say that we aspire to provide high quality of life by the year 2030. That is already part of our national policy. In 2010, Kenyans went out and made for themselves a constitution. Under the Article 43, subsection 1B, Kenyans gave themselves rights and freedoms, which I don't think are debatable. Those are rights and freedoms. And what it says is that every Kenyan, not some Kenyans, have a right to housing and decent housing. The question that we should be debating today is how, if it is your right, how do we fund your rights? It's a fair question. And in our view, we looked at three options. A, we can go out there and borrow money. Okay? The entire program says the 500,000 is 1.3 trillion.
That's what it'll cost.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can go borrow 1.3 trillion and build the houses. B, we can go and raise taxes for everybody, okay? Or we can go through a PPP process, in which case we ask you to contribute, not a tax. It's a contribution, and the difference between a contribution and a tax, and it's a huge difference.
Go ahead,
is that, you see, when Hussein, you pay your PAYE, it is used to build a road somewhere, I don't know where, in Moranga or somewhere where you probably never go.
Yeah.
That's what a tax is. The contribution, you retain the right of deciding how you want that contribution is going to go. But we needed that money because the option that we took was the PPP option, where the private sector will come in with the funding, this 1.3 trillion, they build the houses, and at the time at which the houses are complete, we buy the houses on behalf of Kenyans and allocate.
Okay. I mean, and this is where people have a problem. You're calling it a contribution.
Yes.
Although it's compulsory.
It is compulsory.
Whether you like it or not.
Yes.
So it really ceases to be a contribution, isn't it?
It is a contribution.
How is it a contribution?
It is a contribution because if you don't get a house, you see, it confers you a right. If you don't get a house, okay, or if you say, I already have a house, your contribution, we can elect to assign it to your son or to your daughter or to your relative.
If you don't want to be in this, like the tweets that I've just read to you, and the people who are saying we have other priorities, we don't necessarily want this. There's no choice. You just have to do it.
So should we go back to the taxes? Because the tax does not give you a benefit direct. But here I'm giving you a direct benefit where I say, let's get this money, we crowd in the investment that we need, all right? We build the houses, all right? Okay? And then we confer these rights that Kenyans give to themselves.
Okay. I'm just going to look at the Housing Act, and when it says any person who fails, neglects, or refuses to register under this regulation commits an offence or shall upon conviction be liable to imprisonment for a term of 2 years.
Yes.
And a fine exceeding 10,000 shillings or both. Any person who fails, neglects, or refuses to make contribution. There's also a jail term prescribed, and this is compulsory. It's whether you like it or not.
No, it is compulsory.
Yeah.
That bit we're saying it is compulsory.
Right.
And the reason why it is compulsory, Hussein, is because when you go to a PPP model, all right, the investor wants certainty of cash flows. So you know very well, if the roads we're building using our PPP, there's a fuel levy. You don't have an option. When you go to the pumps, you pay.
Okay.
All right? With the SGR, there's a railway levy. Okay? That money goes into a ring fence. The only difference here, we said, let's make
your funding.
It is your funding.
Yeah. That's the difference. That's the only difference here.
Yeah.
It's your funding, and you're being told whether you like it or not, you have to be.
No, we are saying,
have to give this levy. But be that as it may.
In terms of social justice,
yeah,
we must have a broader conversation. How do we think we are going to finance the social justice?
When should that conversation have been had?
But it's already, because Kenyans already said. They said that the right to. And by the way, read Article 43. It says every Kenyan, not
There's
some
no
Kenyans.
doubt about that.
Yeah.
But you think, wouldn't it have been important to say it then, when the manifesto was being launched, and Kenyans were just being told, in all honesty, Kenyans are just being told, you're going to build 500,000 houses in 5 years.
You know what the strange thing is?
Nobody told Kenyans, you're going to pay for this.
But they were. Can I tell you what the strange thing is, Hussein? When you take the Jubilee manifesto and you take the NASA manifesto, actually I don't even know where I was out. I was not even in the country. I was living in South Africa.
Yes, in the PS.
I was in the PS. No, I'm saying.
I'm saying. No.
The point I'm trying to say is both parties actually said that they were going to build 500,000 houses in their manifestos.
No doubt about it. Okay.
They went to every Kenyan, and so the fact that you elected them, you knew, yeah, that they made a commitment and they've got to fulfill that commitment. The question that we should be asking, and by the way, they said it, that is going to be done through a PPP. Now, a PPP, all right, for it to be off balance sheet, and it doesn't affect our debt levels, there needs to be a ring-fenced fund in which the investors are not looking at Wanjiko, is looking at the cash flows that are coming in, and that way we build.
And that is what you're saying now. I'm saying that was not told, that was not said before.
Well, they said
it was
PPP.
Yeah, and that is why Kenyans are frustrated. Some Kenyans are frustrated about this.
Yeah.
Okay, you're targeting about 3 million salaried Kenyans, all right? How will it be a contribution if your target first, you're talking 500,000 houses in 5 years, 3.5 years now. 40
months.
2.5 million Kenyans would have been in it for what exactly?
You see, we need to be very clear.
I
began by stating what is our long-term national strategy. It's the Vision 2030. What we're implementing right now is what is called medium-term plan. This housing program is going to continue beyond 2022.
There's no guarantee, right?
There is guarantee.
There's no guarantee.
It
depends with the government that comes in place.
No,
this is a fulfillment of the Jubilee Party manifesto. Who knows what will happen after 2022?
Vision 2030 is not Jubilee.
But it does,
the Constitution is not Jubilee.
That's fine. I'm just saying it doesn't necessarily mean the next government may take that as a priority. They may take education as a priority or may take water as a priority.
However, here's the bad news for the next government that they decide to kill the program. You see, because it's a contribution, okay? A national treasury is actually giving letters of support that says that this fund will not be wound up when it has got present and future obligations. Guess whose obligation those are? Not just the developer. I have an obligation to you. I have an obligation to deliver a house to you. And that is why when you look at the regulations, they say, okay, at the earlier of retirement of 15 years, because we know that you will be contributing into the future.
Okay.
So if you don't get a house in 15 years' time, you come, we give back.
So what will be the criteria then for allocating the houses? Let's say it's 2022.
Yes.
You have these houses in place.
Right.
What will be the criteria? Because as I said, you're targeting 3 million salaried Kenyans and you're talking about 500,000 houses. That's 75% already will miss out, isn't it?
They won't miss out. Let's take a practical example. I've got Park Road, which is my first project that I've started. Park Road is 1,370 units. The interest in Park Road alone is crazy, all right? Assuming we get 20,000 Kenyans that have, that have opted that they want a unit, how do we allocate 1,370? That's why you have to register, okay? You start contributing, all right? And then there's different criteria, households, disabled and so on and so forth, all right? And then there's categories. If you're in social housing, you can't buy outside the social house. So all those who are in the social house will be taken to one place and balloted. Okay?
Balloted?
Yes, you'll be balloted.
There's a lottery that has been talked about.
Yes, this is a lottery that is being talked about. And you know why? Because we're trying to make sure there's transparency.
So you're going to be forced to contribute. And then it's going to be a lottery again in terms of...
For the houses that are being built under this program. But that's not the only way for you to get a house. I'm establishing a Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. By June, it will be up and running. Hussein, you can still go to the bank tomorrow, from June, and get your a mortgage, okay? Again, Hussein, because if we think that this is a long-term plan, okay? And we're saying that, yes, because we don't have trillions of shillings to build all the 3 million houses all at once. And by the way, guess what? It's not just 3 million people we're targeting. Of course, because there's voluntary contributions. Yeah. And those are more than the 3 million.
Okay.
Yeah. So the whole idea is this contribution unlocks the private capital, okay? And we start building at scale. At the moment, Hussein, our national demand for housing is 250,000. We are doing 50,000. Of the 50,000, 49,000 is for the high end, the 3%. For the affordable housing, we are doing 1,000. If as a country we don't address this issue, Hussein, even you, if you live in Runda or you live in Karen, there will be another slum that is going to come there.
If you're targeting 3 million salaried Kenyans, how many of those in the informal sector fall under this bracket? This is affordable housing. And now you're telling me only the people who...
Can I give you the numbers?
Contributed.
Can I give you the numbers?
Only people who have contributed would
Can I give you the numbers, first of all?
Yeah.
The Kenyans who earn less than 20,000, you get a social house, okay? If 75% of all formerly employed, that is you and I, those who have a pay slip, earn less than 50,000. All right? All right? 93% of all salaried employees earn less than 100,000 shillings. Those are not in the mortgage market because financial institutions only start to finance you when you are at about 150 and above. So you have no choices, and the choices that you have, either you contribute through SACCOs and you take 9 years, 10 years to build your house. So we're changing that. So under this program, okay, that's why I want us to talk beyond the levy. But the levy unlocks. We are able to provide people in social housing with interest at 3% for 25 years. I'm able to provide you and I who are in the affordable housing, all right, if we qualify for affordable housing, at 7% fixed for 25 years. That is revolutionary.
So my question then, is home ownership, of course you talked about these numbers, but is it a priority among the low-income households?
Why not?
I'll quote a World Bank study, this was in 2016, that indicated that most urban dwellers in Kenya live on rent, and in fact talked about 91% of Nairobi
rent
being tenants, yeah?
Yes.
And majority lacking the means or even inclination to buy in the cities.
Do you know why?
So how will they even afford?
Do you know why, Hussein? Yeah. Okay, because mortgages are not affordable in Kenya. The Kenyans rent not because they want to rent, they rent because they can't afford. Let me tell you, for a country, and I'll give the numbers,
okay.
Hussein. okay, the ratio of rent to mortgage is 1 to 6 in this country, while in countries where they've addressed is 1 to 1. Therefore, under this program, the same amount of money you're paying to rent is the same amount of money you will pay to own a house. Why will you rent if you can own the house and pay the same amount?
That's not necessarily entirely true.
No, it is true. Can I give you the numbers?
Give me the numbers, for example.
Give me numbers.
Okay.
Kibera, let me give you. I've done 822 houses in Kibera, okay? I've provided mortgages at 3%, 25 years. For a 600,000 house, it is 2,500 shillings a month. For a 1 million house, yeah, it is 4,500. For a 1.5 million house, 3-roomed house in Kibera, today, I'm not talking about some story or presentation, we are giving out mortgages, okay, at 6,500 shillings a month.
My question.
That is the same amount of money, Hussein, by the way, the rest of Kibera is paying to live in a shack.
That's the assumption. Yes, I mean, you're talking
about...
about...
How can you say the assumption? I've given you empirical evidence.
That's fine. I'm just saying, you're assuming that these people will be able to pay 6,000 shillings a month.
But if they're paying rent in a shack that has no toilet,
they don't pay 6,000 shillings.
They do.
They don't pay 6,000 shillings a month.
They do.
I mean, if you,
have you done your research?
I've done my research.
How much do they pay?
And I know
how much are they
don't even pay close to 2,000. And of course, it depends. It depends with where you're living. And that is the case with so many other slums in this country. Most of these people, the 6,000 you're talking about, most of these people, and I'm sorry to say this, but it's a fact in this country. Some of them, that is the salary they get at the end of the month. Some even lower than 6,000. So how would they pay 6,000 for a house?
Hussein, what I've said.
That's why people are. That's why some are questioning. You know, some people are saying, why are you really focused on ownership? Maybe this is not their priority.
No, but Hussein, okay, what I've said is, okay, what we are giving you is a choice. Okay, I'm giving you a choice that if you can pay the same amount of money to rent, you can also pay the same amount of money to own.
There are a lot of questions again. I mean, first, there's a question about if you're already in a housing scheme, what choice do you have? Clearly, there's no choice here. It's in the law, and you don't have a choice.
You can get a second house, or you can elect. You can elect to give that, to bequeath that, whatever, to your son or your daughter, to your house help. Yeah. Do you even know where our house helps live? Do you know where our gardeners live?
My point is,
get them a house.
You're saying get them a house.
Hussein, what is 2,500 to you, my friend?
It's not about
you can be able to bequeath it to.
It's not about me. This is somebody who's saying they're already in a housing scheme.
Yes.
Already.
Yeah.
So why would you? They have other priorities and they're being charged for this. Okay, at the end of the month.
Right.
You're telling them you can own another house. You're forcing them to own another house. That's what you're saying.
But you know what I'm saying? With this money, they can also. We are also using this money to refinance your existing mortgages to 7%.
Okay, be that as it may, let's take a look at more tweets here. But as I said, and as you know, this is compulsory. There's no doubt about that.
But it's a contribution.
Okay, compulsory contribution, if you want to call it that. And NASA Revolution on Twitter says, I'm one of the Kenyans earning over 500,000 a month, taking net of over 250,000. I'd love to even give 50,000 to a credible, safe, secure, well-defined scheme. What resist housing levy fund levy, the hashtag, currently is not different from Ekeza Sacco, no structures, not defined and regulated. PS Hinga, go do homework, okay? And there's somebody else, Vincent Mileo, who says, assuming Uhuru has 3.5 years left in his term, okay? 3.5 years times 365 days a year, times 388 houses per day will give us the 500,000 houses. I want to see the 388 houses Zakesho ones, okay? 500,000 units in 5 years. It's not 5 years anymore. It's 3.5 years, 40 months. This is really going to happen.
It is going to happen. All the pieces are in place. All the parts are in place. We have identified land.
There's a court battle going on.
You know, and that's...
You don't think it's time to revise this?
Look,
you're sure you'll do this by 2022?
2022 will have done the 500,000, if not more.
Just like any other such projects, there have been fears, or there are fears that it could be open to theft. I mean, we've seen other funds, NHIF, NSSF, always in the news for all the wrong reasons. And you've seen how Kenyans have been talking. I'll take a look at those tweets from them again. We have Chris Koima, who says, housing finance have had major scandals in the past. These people squandered funds given to them by World Bank to conduct some housing survey and ended up being blacklisted. Now they don't have a source for an extra income. income. Joshua Njenga says, we trusted you with laptops, you did not deliver. We trusted you with Galana Kulalu, but it failed, the government that is. We trusted you, you'd build stadiums, but none was built. We trusted you with NYS, but we lost billions. We trusted you with dams, but here affordable housing to make Qatar. And this concern is there, and you've seen what has been going on social media, and when people say resist housing levy, I don't know how that settles with you. And again, I'll take a look at what is in the Act, that a person who misappropriates any funds or assets of the housing fund, or assists or causes any person to misappropriate or apply the funds otherwise done in the manner provided in these regulations, commits an offence and shall upon conviction be liable to imprisonment for a term of 2 years or a fine not exceeding 10,000 shillings or both. And I'm sure you've heard how people have been teasing around with this and saying, look, is this all?
Still billions and pay 10,000.
You still billions and you're going to pay 10,000 shillings fine or 2 years?
The Housing Act has been there since 1967. Cap 117, in fact, since 1953, but the fund has been in existence since 1967. It was never operationalized. What we did were regulations. But you see, regulations cannot change the statute, right? So it's a sequential. So the regulations only cites what is in the Act. Now, we are amending the Act, all right, so that if you misappropriate the money, it's going to be linked with economic crimes. Okay.
When should Kenya expect that?
It's already in the miscellaneous bill that we forwarded already at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So it's a sequential.
People see this as almost as a job. So
absolutely. It can be 10, and you know, maybe 10,000 shillings in 1967 was a lot of money, but not today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just that people see it as how was this not handled before? Either way, you're saying there's an amendment coming.
It's an amendment. It's an amendment coming.
Okay. The other issue, of course, is how do you insulate this? Who exactly manages this fund? How do you insulate it from corruption? We've seen what has happened to other funds in this country. Yeah.
So this fund is not going to be managed by bureaucrats. These monies are going to be managed by people who have integrity and people who every day they manage money. So first of all, you saw last week National Housing Corporation advertised for custodial services. It also advertised for fund managers. It also advertised for investment managers. We are not creating another blotted institution that is going to be inefficient and bureaucratic, and also people having their money's in hands in the cookie jar.
So it's not in place yet?
No, the structure is in place. What we have now is a custodial services. We could not go out and advertise for custodial services because of the injunctions that were there, because the injunctive nature of what was there had barred us from any implementation. So now the custodial services will be in place. By the time we start deducting money, those services will be in place. But this is the reason why we must make it happen, because I want us to make sure that we also don't forget about talking about the real issues. Today, our economy is sluggish. As much as the macroeconomic numbers out there are showing the GDP is growing, you measure it by how you feel in the pocket, right? Kenyans are struggling in terms of monies. So in my view, the way I look at this thing is actually we are investing into our economy. When the economy is sluggish, you do a stimulus package. There is no better stimulus than construction. Why? It is labor intensive. We need to create jobs. It is capital intensive. It means that you're going to have a lot of money in circulation. But construction also has a lot of backward linkages. So let me give you a couple of examples, Hussein. The kind of conversation we should be having today is that this program needs 44 million bags of cement. I need 5 million kgs of nails. I need $7 million. The question that we should be talking today is, how much of this should be done by Kenyans?
But you still agree that a lot should be done still?
A lot should be done. A lot should be done. And by the way, the biggest job that I have on my shoulders right now is to bring as many Kenyans on board. And every time we talk to them and they understand, the biggest headache is the issue of governance and the believability
of this whole thing. Okay, and you have your work cut out for you. It's not easy.
Work cut out for me.
Good luck. Let's see how
thank you so much.
Kenyans receive this, but thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Keep talking to us. The
thank you so much.
Newsnight, text us on 22422. We're back after this break.